So last time I made a video about how to do the things you do at Wang Daixin Temple. This time I'll talk about something that is probably a little bit more fun. I'll talk about what you can ask for at a traditional fortune teller in Hong Kong. Okay, so when you go to a fortune teller in Hong Kong, which the most popular places to find one are at the Temple Street in Yau Ma Tei and at the Wang Daixin Temple in Wang Daixin. Personally, I think the Wang Daixin Temple is maybe a little bit more legit because there's sort of a vetting process for renting a booth there. And maybe it's a little bit less touristy and gimmicky. But if you're a tourist, maybe that's what you're looking for. So go to Temple Street, which may have more English-speaking fortune tellers who are more tourist banter friendly. English options are available at both locations, though. You just have to look at their menus. There are also private fortune tellers dotted across the city that you can find on just Google them. For instance, there's this one that's tucked away in the back of Lei Yunmun village that you have to hike to, which is kind of cool. You get the idea. So my mom runs a booth at Wang Daixin, but I'm not doing this to kind of promote her business here. Actually, I prefer you to not bother her because she's basically semi-retired and she doesn't speak English. So my family had been running the same booth since around the 50s. And the banner here that says white-headed elder, that's basically my great-grandfather's alias, specifically my father's mom's father. So when he first started, this building didn't even exist. And it was just like a tin hut that he himself built, probably with some help. This building that you can see was built in the late 80s, early 90s. A random fact, this building is actually owned by a different organization than the one that runs the temple. And apparently, I think they have some beef between them, or so I've been told. In all, there are over 100 fortune-telling stalls here, and like 40 shops for selling worshipping stuff like these windmills, which you can change your luck if you're feeling unlucky, or if you're feeling extra lucky that you want to change your luck. Okay, enough of that. Let's dive in and look at the menu for what a fortune teller typically offers. So here's the one from my mom's booth. The first item is Chim, which is for the piece of numbered paper with the corresponding poem on it. You can watch my other video if you don't know what I'm talking about here. Basically, you can get a wishing stick from the temple which has a number on it. Remember not to take that stick with you because it's not yours to keep. Just remember the number and then get the paper with the same number on it because you need the paper to know what your fortune actually says. But even with the poem, the fortune is still cryptic, right? So that's what the next item comes in, which is Gai Chim, or to interpret the fortune. So you can tell the fortune teller what you're seeking fortune for with the number that you got from the ritual that you did. So for example, we can say that, you want to ask about the relationship and you got the number 27, and the teller, the fortune teller, would recite the poem of number 27, which in this case is about an ancient king trying to win back his kingdom, and he was studying how ants and butterflies react to the weather. I told you it's cryptic. But depending on what specific aspect of your life we're asking, the fortune teller, if they know their stuff, would know what the correct recommendation is. So you can also just Google these yourself, actually. So for number 27, if you're asking about a relationship, it's basically would say that you may have more than one suitor this year, so choose carefully, but try to aim for someone who's a hard worker, stuff like that. So next up is Zheng Sheng, which is palm reading. Sometimes you also see Min Sheng, which is face reading. So face reading deal with slightly longer timelines, I think. But remember Chim, so the surface about the fortune sticks, they're usually about a specific thing with a specific timeline. So things like, oh, my son is dating this white girl, should I be worried? Oh, you definitely should, stuff like that. So the timeline for face and palm reading is over a few years and perhaps over the rest of your life, but they're not about anything specific. You actually would look at a different part of your face or your palm depending on your age. For example, my mom would look at my eyebrows if she's doing a face reading on me because I'm in my late 30s. If you're younger, she may look at your forehead or your ears instead, stuff like that. So next is the 喜欢八字, which is your current luck for basically the current year according to your 八字, which are the 8 characters associated with your birth year, month, day, and hour. It involves more calculations, so it costs a bit more. So after that is 流年運程, which is your luck for the year depending on your 八字 again. So this one is more detailed and kind of time dependent about your luck this year, but like by the month. Then there is 擇日, which is to choose a date for a specific event, like moving and traveling, or like having a wedding, or hosting a concert, or opening a business, or announcing the IPO for your Fortune 500 company, stuff like that. But wedding is the main one that people go to a fortune teller for, and it will have multiple dates. So the fortune teller will recommend like 2 dates for like 2 different dates for like the groom to bring dowry to the bride's parents, and then 2 different dates for when you will decorate the new bed and the time for it, I think, and then also the 2 like dates for when the actual wedding is gonna happen, and then like the hour for the bride to like do her hair before the ceremony and stuff like that, with a couple different options. So sometimes people even go to fortune tellers to pick a day for like their C-section. So it's just like time choosing a service. So okay, the next item is 改名, which is just baby naming. Again, it involves the birth time of the baby and birth time of the parents, and what kind of name would balance out the elements that are the strongest according to all the maths with the birth dates and hours and so on. And okay, the next item is 合婚, which is kind of like matchmaking, except it's more like the opposite of matchmaking. It's mostly for parents who want to know if their kid's new boyfriend or girlfriend would be good for them to marry, and what kind of problems they may or may not have in the future. Like if they're a good match for their money fortune, but they may not have kids, but then they may be happy, but they will have problems with the law or something that's kind of specific and granular. Again, it's just mostly based on birth dates and hour and whatever additional information you can give the fortune seeker. I mean, you can give the fortune teller. Most of these are basically a form of talk therapy. That's how I think of it. Okay, so the next item is 卜卦, which is a kind of like divination. I don't know how to say that word. Anyway, it's basically like tea leaf reading, that kind of stuff. So the kind that's most common here involves a hollowed out turtle shell, which you put 3 small wooden wedges or 3 like copper coins inside, and you shake the shell until the coins or the wooden wedges fall out. And then depending on what binary sequence you get, like if it's like head, tail, head, or tail, head, head, and so on, the fortune teller would interpret it according to 八卦, which it's like a set of rules for reading these things. And 八卦is basically related to those little lines that you see on the Korean flag, South Korean flag. It's the dashes and the solid lines. Those are like the yin and the yangs, essentially. Okay, then there is 精辟命理, which is like the 流年運程from earlier. except instead of telling you your fortune based on your birthday and hours for the year, it's about the rest of your life, which is also why this is the most expensive item on the list. The fortune teller will actually have to write everything down on a booklet that you'll pick up. You have to come back to pick it up in a few days, and then they will sit you down and explain to you basically what your fortune will be like in different areas for the rest of your life. Okay, and then there are other things that are not on my mom's menus. There's like 集美导手, which is kind of like Chinese astrology, except there's like an incredible amount of math involved. And I think my mom once took a course on this for like half a year and couldn't really grasp it, so she just kind of gave up. So the lore is pretty deep. Then, of course, there are different kinds of feng shui. You may be surprised to know that there are different kinds. There are different kinds. They're the kind that help you figure out how you should arrange your furniture, of course. That's the kind you may be familiar with. Then there's the kind you would do before you buy a house to figure out, the fortune of the house based on what direction the window of the second bedroom faces and relate to the nearest mountain and river and so on. Then there's the kind that you figure out if you should move because maybe it's a bad year because of where the building is and what your birthday and hour is and what year the building was built and so on. All extremely elaborate. And all I've talked about is Yangzak, which means yang homes. So for homes for the living. There's also feng shui for Yamzak, which means yin homes. So those are graves. If you can afford or rent or own a plot of land in Hong Kong to bury your ancestors or your parents, or to bury someone yourself, then basically you can hire a fortune teller to help you tell if the grave site is good for generational wealth and a legacy and stuff. It's mostly for rich people. But for example, they would say something like, oh, the vein of the dragon on this mountain is over here and the ocean is over there, so the dragon can drink over here, so this is a good spot. And speaking of dragon veins, real estate developers look at these things too. Sometimes you'll see buildings in Hong Kong with like a big hole in the middle, and they're there to not block the dragon's chi or something like that. And the shape of the buildings matter as well in feng shui, of course. It was a big deal when the Bank of China was built in early 90s because it looked like a sword. So it pissed off some of the people who lived nearby. So much so that when the HSBC building was when the new headquarters was built just down the street from the Bank of China building, the architect would add 2 huge cranes on the rooftop that looked like cannons to kind of counter the aggressive feng shui from the Bank of China building. So these are the kind of stories you hear as a kid in Hong Kong, in the 90s at least when I was growing up. So, oh, and one more thing, just for the record, because according to my mom, no one really does this anymore, at least not in Daishin, so it's kind of a lost art. But anyway, my family also used to do a few more ritualistic things for our clients. So one thing is these prayer books that we would burn for the clients, kind of like as an alternative to actually saying the prayers. And before we can burn them, we need to dot the first word of every sentence on the first page of the book. And my grandpa would spend hours every weekend doing that. He would trim the calligraphy fur pen down to a little nub so it's easier to make dots with them. And the other thing that is also difficult to find nowadays that my family used to sell was these peach wood swords for kind of fending off evil spirits. Basically, it's like a little toy sword made out of peach wood. And I don't know where my family buy them from. But then my grandpa would write like one spell on one side in Chinese, and then a different spell on the other side, which are some kind of runes. And then we would wrap these dried leaves around the sword with a red thread, and then put the whole thing inside a red envelope and then roll them up. And I was the one who would sometimes roll them up. My name is Yu Yun. Thank you for watching.